Coming up on Verse, Chorus, Verse, it is our fourth time doing this same party, so you should all know what's going on. That's next. Happy Halloween, everybody. Hope you're doing well. I am DL. Yeah, huzzah. With us tonight is Evil, plays all his records backwards just in case, Jimmy. Evil, how you doing tonight?
It's the only way to get all of the fun messages in there. I'm doing good.
Exactly.
Yep.
Hail Satan and whatnot.
Yeah.
Also with us is Rachel, the Pumpkin Queen Polio. Rachel,
Yes.
how are you today?
I'm doing good. I have a busy weekend, so I'm excited to... It was a busy weekend watching horror movies, too. I watched 5 horror movies in 3 days. I think only 5. No, 6.
Being a little liberal with the word busy, I think, but that's okay.
I also have a paper due for my master's, so I was doing that, too.
Oh, stop. All right. Also with us, every year we're stealing her for Halloween. As you all know, I think it might be Evil and Rachel and I's favorite episode to do every year. And she's a large part of it. Rachel Reeves is here. Rachel, how are you?
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to be back. It's the best time of year.
Yeah.
Spooky season is upon us. And I'm so grateful to be coming back and talking about some seriously killer movies today. So we got a good lineup, lots of good stuff.
We did a good job this time. We did. Also, hopefully it's not just a Washington thing, but kind of good timing because it instantly became fall today here. All of a sudden, all the trees are like golden. Leaves are falling, 50, 45 degrees when I wake up. It just feels like fall. It's kind of perfect for the episode. What's it like over in old Idaho, everybody?
The mornings are getting crispy, which I like. I do enjoy that. It still, warms up during the day, but I do like the shorter days. Definitely, I'm able to tell that we're veering into Halloween season with the shorter days.
We're super old. We have to talk about the weather.
Yes.
It's just how it is. Rachel Reeves, for those of you that have not listened to the pod, the Halloween episodes of the past, first off, how dare you? Second off, if you don't know Rachel Reeves, she is a journalist and podcaster for horror films. She writes for Dread Central, for Bloody Disgusting, for These Things Matter, for Rue Morgue. She helps with the podcast Halloweenies, Losers Club, which is a Stephen King podcast, The Pod and the Pendulum, which is just a witty name, and The Girls on the Boys, which is a podcast about the show The Boys. Rachel, I'm gonna put you on the spot on a couple of these here. First off, The Girls on the Boys. You guys didn't quit because of how much shit the last season got?
No. I mean, we
Does that make
love
it better?
to talk about and get into it. I am curious, and like now that we've covered all of season 4, it's been really fascinating to be like, oh, why were people so upset about it? There's some things I can understand and some others that I don't necessarily agree with. So yeah,
That was kind of my question is, did you like the season?
I liked it. It was not, I will say it's probably my least favorite of the seasons so far, but I didn't think it deserved so much hate. Also, it's the penultimate season, right? Kripke has talked about season 5. That's it. I'm done. So I'm holding out judgment to see how things wrap up. But yeah, I agree. There was some sloppy storylines and some things that was like, okay, maybe not their best work. But also some incredible work was happening as well. So I still enjoyed it for sure.
Evil, do you watch The Boys?
I do. I have not watched the 4th season yet, and that's purely just a function of time limitations. But it's in queue. Yeah.
So Rachel, you also do Halloweenies, that's fairly new, right? That's been like a year or two?
Yeah, this has been like this last year was my first official full year. They're all friends of mine anyways. Several of them are still part of the Losers Club. So eventually they asked me, they were like, oh yeah, I think they looked around and were like, oh, we're just a bunch of dudes. Maybe we should have some other voices chime in here. So I'm very grateful for them. And yeah, we covered Alien this whole last season. So I was like, yeah, you want me to come and talk about Alien?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
I guess,
what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about that. So give me the first, you don't have to give me all of them, but like, what is the best Alien movie and what is the worst Alien movie?
So for me, my favorite, I mean, this is not going to be a hot take or anything, is the original Alien.
Yeah.
I know some people, Aliens is their favorite, but
yeah.
I'm always going to go back to just the OG Alien.
I agree.
That makes sense. It's like that argument is like, do you want a really good horror movie or do you want a really good action movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
love both. Like on
They're
a different
both great.
day, you know, you could argue either one, but I think that the original one just set the standard,
Yeah.
created the characters. Like it's hard not to go with that one. Least favorite.
Aliens had Bill Paxton though, which
Agree. Both
Yeah.
incredible movies. Love them both.
Yeah.
But
they were
least
awesome. They're both awesome.
yeah, least favorite, I would have to say, well, I did say, because we did a rankings episode on it, was Alien versus Predator Requiem.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
but
I don't think
also
you're getting
some
a
of
little
it-
hot arguing on
Some
that.
of it was just because it's so dang dark, and I thought it was, and so I don't know, maybe someday we're going to get like a remastered like version, and it's going to look incredible, and I'm going to change my mind, but that one's just messy, and I have no idea, so... That's my
Were you a
least
big
favorite.
fan of the new ones, the ones with Fassbender, the ones that like the first one got a bunch of shit? I'm blanking on the name for some reason.
Prometheus.
Prometheus, thank you. What were your thoughts on Prometheus?
I mean, Prometheus takes some big swings, and it looks incredible. So
Yes.
I think that it earns points with me personally, just for being so ballsy. Same thing with like Alien 3, incredibly ballsy with what they do with it. So
I think you're
kind of
Evil's
all
favorite
about
person.
it.
Well, I've argued the virtues of Prometheus. It's beautiful. It's beautifully
beautiful.
shot. There are a lot of things that are right about that movie.
Yeah.
The story and the acting, maybe not them, but
It's just different.
yes.
And
Michael
I mean,
Fassbender's pretty beautiful too.
well,
he's
and
incredible. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
pulling in like Lovecraft mythos loosely with At the Mountains of Madness. I mean, big swings. I appreciate the effort that they put forth into that film.
And I like what they set up, and I like that
Yeah.
Scott was taking it in a different direction, which I think
Yep.
is what it needed. And
Yeah.
it's just unfortunate that Covenant didn't commit as hard as Prometheus.
Yeah.
I liked them. I thought they were freaking cool.
Oh yeah,
I liked
still,
those movies.
there's not
yeah.
a bad movie in the bunch. I will say that. Like honestly, even the Alien versus Predator movies, not great, but come on, I've seen worse. Let's be real.
You know what I loved? I loved the Predator one on Hulu.
Prey.
Oh God, that was so good. Mm-hmm. And let's just not talk about the three movies and talk about Aliens. I guess that's got to be our next year's, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, everybody, it's obvious why we have her on. She really knows her shit. She's been interviewing a bunch of people for a long time about this stuff. She knows what she's doing, and we're really, really excited to have her on. So thank you very much. What we do is we take 3 scores and we talk about them. We usually do one kind of, I don't know, what would you call it? Like a little more wholesome-y classic version of a score. And then we do a complete screwy, fun, the
evil pick.
fun ones. Yeah, the evil ones.
That's all it is.
And then we do an infamous one, and then we do one that is renowned as one of the more influential ones. We've done Jaws, we've done Halloween, we started with Psycho. Evil, I'm going to start with you. Had you watched Suspiria, either one?
Neither.
Before?
No.
Neither of them, huh?
I was familiar with the music from the original, but I had never actually seen the film.
Rachel Polio, same question.
Same answer. I had not seen either of these guys, so
I'm so happy for you guys.
Yeah.
now. I'm so excited.
I'd been a fan of Suspiria just because it was, I was a Radiohead nerd. And when I found out Tom York was doing it, I was like, okay, well, I've got to check it out. So I checked him out, and I think we're going to have a lot to say on that. Our picks are really, really good this year. We did a really good job on our
Oh, this was a good mix too. It was definitely Trevor was out of town, so I had to wait to watch Suspiria and Suspiria part, the remake of it. in quotes.
The 50 Shades of Grey, Suspiria.
Yes, I needed to wait on those because I didn't know what to expect. It was a good mixture of stuff.
Why did you? Oh, you mean like you were scared? Like,
I think the house is haunted and my dog can't protect me. So she's too nice.
I can't.
She would just lick the intruder or murderer and then be like, hey, we can hang out. After you kill my mom, let's get my snacks.
Could be efficient. We've got a lot to talk about, so we're going to get into it. First, we got to get to the most important part of the day. What are we drinking? Let's start with Rachel Reeves, because if I remember correct from the last 4 years, unless something
what
really...
kind of flavored water do you have, Rachel?
Unless something really bad has happened to you in life and you've become an alcoholic, you aren't a big drinker. So what are you drinking today?
Yeah, it's the middle of the day, so lucky I'm not drinking an energy drink this time.
Well,
Calm down, Rachel. Let's not judge.
Sounds real judgmental of you, Rachel.
Got my chamomile lavender tea.
It's the middle of the day.
Yeah. Chamomile,
It's practically
lavender
5 o'clock,
tea.
Rach.
All right.
Yep. I've got, just some teas, some flavored water. Yes.
At least the mug.
I like that you have 2 drinks.
Yeah.
The mug is terrifying.
The mug
for
is
people at
awesome.
home.
So there's
Smile.
that.
Yep, I'm themed. I've got my smile mug here.
Yes. I have not seen that. I haven't seen either of them.
Oh, it's good.
Is it?
The second one's not out yet, is it?
No, soon though.
Okay, yeah.
How many fucking horror films do you watch a month?
Oh, it's gross. I don't know. I keep up as best I can. But, there's a lot of people, a lot of my friends that, they're watching just nonstop. It's hard. It's really hard to keep up. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff out right now that I'm like, oh my God, I'm so behind. Like, I haven't seen The Substance yet. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? And then it's like, oh yeah, working.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I want to see The Substance.
Oh, you have a job? Bummer.
It gets in the way a lot.
does.
It's really annoying.
Work sucks. Oh, Rachel Polio. Let's go to you. What are you drinking today?
I have a very exciting fall drink in my copper cup.
Oh,
it's some warmed up apple cider. And I put a caramel rim on it and then was like, I'm going to do a cinnamon sugar rim on top of that. And then, because
very Rachel of
wanted to make you proud. And then I threw in some Buffalo Trace. So it's warm apple cider and Buffalo Trace is the short answer. Thanks. A little bit of caramel.
That actually sounds delicious. That's probably pretty damn good.
I know.
I would drink that.
Maybe a lot of sugar on top, but hey.
I'm amazing. That is so good.
Yeah. I will go next. I drink the same thing every year, and it's delicious every year. I have some homemade apple liqueur, mix it with some Laird's Ample brandy, a little bit of lime, and Bob's Your Uncle. And that's it. That's what I'm drinking. It's basically an apple teeny, and it's really, really good. I'm proud of myself that I do it every year. I also am amazing. Evil, what do you have for Halloween?
I went very simple. I just poured a glass of whiskey. That's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Kind of
That's weird. You never do that.
Michter's American, but just sounded good today. So
It's very
one
fall.
pour.
You're being real lazy with your drink picks, Evil.
I know. But hey,
You always save him for last, like he's going to be the most exciting, but we're kind of switching places.
There was a stint there where he was way better. Not just better, but like way better than us.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, Michter's is it's not a terrible choice. So
sounded good.
one more thing before we take a break and we get into it. I'm going to put you on the spot one more time, Rachel Reeves.
Okay.
As somebody who does not watch a lot of scary movies anymore because I'm only awake when my 10-year-old daughter is awake, and I feel weird watching them on planes because I'm always worried there's like a kid behind me and I don't want some guy getting disemboweled on the screen. But
So you're a good person sometimes.
not really. I just don't want to deal with the parents. Anyway, if I do get time to watch one, like a 2000, what is the best 2024, maybe 23 scary movie to watch if I haven't watched it yet?
Oh my gosh.
What should I watch?
The best one? Well, there's a few that I've actually really liked this year. Like I have actually really liked Oddity. That's very creepy. And then I also really enjoyed Cuckoo.
I don't know any of these.
Which is Cuckoo is very like Euro horror. It's kind of in the Suspiria. So if you just want to watch something weird
Yeah, I
for
do.
the sake of being weird, Cuckoo's great for that. And then Longlegs, First Omen, Immaculate, like those are all really solid films that will probably be in my top 10 for the year. But yeah, I've also had a lot of people tell me that, The Substance is one of their favorite films of the year, but I haven't seen it yet, so darn.
Is that Demi Moore?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I've heard good. I've heard good things. Not in a pervy way. I'd
watch
Demi
that.
Moore's probably good.
I'd watch that too.
We're going to take a break. We're going to get into our first movie. Happy Halloween, everybody. Excited for you all to go trick-or-treating in a couple days. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to see something strange? Come with us and you will see. This our town of Halloween. This is Halloween. This is
We
Halloween.
are back, and we got to get to our first movie of the night, a movie that I feel like might take quite a bit of time to talk about because I have a hot take on it. We'll get to later. But yeah,
Uh-oh.
Rachel Polio, take it
Yes.
away. What's our first movie of the night?
Our first movie of the night is Nightmare Before Christmas, 1993.
You sound a little less excited about that, Rachel. Good Lord.
1993's stop motion classic, directed by Henry
Pretty
Selick. Produced by Tim Burton. Tim Burton did not direct this,
Crazy.
which is a common misconception because it has Tim Burton written all over it. But
I
he
think
did
I've
produce
commonly
it.
misconcepted that for a long time, actually. I think I just
Same.
assumed it was all Tim Burton.
Yes. Danny Elfman did the
Of
music
course,
on
Rachel
this.
Reeves knowingly shakes her head. Like,
Of
yeah,
course.
I know.
Oh, I mean, that's a very
Idiots.
very common misconception.
Yes. Danny Elfman did the music on this one. He also voiced, he was the singing voice of the main character of Jack Skellington, even though he didn't do the voiceover work, I guess. This was put out by Touchstone Pictures instead of Disney because it was scary and Disney didn't want to touch it. Have their hands all over it. They just wanted to, have their hand in the
Yeah.
pot, but not holding the pot, I suppose.
Till they saw how much money they were going to start making from it.
Yeah. It was not a huge box office hit to start. But over the years, has become incredibly popular. So at the time,
Yeah.
not as appreciated as it is now. And now it's just this cult classic that everybody loves. Yeah, that's what we're starting with.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
It's hilarious to me. And I couldn't find numbers. Maybe one of you could. I couldn't. I tried really hard to find how much Nightmare Before Christmas has made for Disney. Not box office, but merch.
Oh, geez.
And-
Oh my gosh.
I can only imagine.
Right?
Yeah.
It's got to be insane.
That's the thing is it's funny that Disney didn't really want to have their hand on this. And now if you go to Disney Springs, Disney World,
Disneyland, there's a
And-
whole ride.
yeah.
Haunted
Is
Mansion
there?
is... The Haunted Mansion was
Oh,
Nightmare Before Christmas inspired
They-
for a moment.
they do that in Halloween, right? They turn it all into a Nightmare Before Christmas
Yeah.
thing.
And I like it. Also, there's
Do ya?
just so much merch there at Disneyland too, as well.
There's Nightmare Before Christmas everything.
Yeah.
One of my coworkers knew that I'm a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan and got me a clock. And she has Nightmare Before Christmas shit everywhere. And she just saw it for the first time last year. So people
Really?
just love the look of it because it's Tim Burton. Tim Burton's the fucking man. Rachel Reeves, were you how old were you when this came out? You were a wee
Were you
baby.
when this came out?
I was 8 when it came out. Didn't see it in the theater or anything. I don't know. It feels like one of those movies that's always been there, I don't remember
Yeah.
the first time I've seen it, but have probably seen it, I don't know, 12 times or something. Not crazy, but it's just always existed. And it is funny to think about it not being a huge hit right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because it's so prolific and just mainstream, especially this time of year, just such an iconic classic in so many ways. The look, the soundtrack that we're going to talk about, the story, the costumes, just the costumes alone. There's always going to
So
be
cool.
a Jack Skellington or a Sally that you're going to see. And you can't drive up and down any street right now without seeing, Oogie Boogie in somebody's
Yeah.
yard. So I love it. And because that imagery is so powerful, so singular to this film, it's impossible
Yeah.
not to want to be attracted to that, I guess.
Have you been a big fan of this movie? Or are you a little... This is an extremely popular movie to the point where I could see some people being like, this is not that fucking good. Get over it. You know what I mean? I'm asking if Rachel Reeves are evil because I don't know. Is anybody like that a little bit?
And here's the thing, because it's a musical, that's not really my thing.
Yeah.
I get it. I appreciate it. I love it in small doses, but I'm not a musical person in general. So it's not going to be what I am drawn to. I'm more into like, I feel like, especially with this kind of gateway horror sort of stuff, I'd be more into like Ghostbusters and Gremlins. Like I've got an insane amount of Gremlin stuff laying around. I've got Gizmo tattooed on my legs. So I think it's more, I've got some other similar things. I think it's the musical part for me that
kills it.
I don't know. Not that it's bad. Just it's not my go-to.
Evil, what about you? Where are you at with Nightmare Before Christmas?
I hate musicals. We all know this. I was probably 17 or so when this came out. So, it just was not even on the radar for me until I would say 5 to 10 years later, because I have 3 nephews who are in mid to late 30s right now who were obsessed with this.
Okay.
When they were like old enough to kind of get it, to the point to where, like, Rachel, you mentioned having a Gremlin tattoo. One of them has like a Jack Skellington tattoo. He has multiple, I think, Nightmare Before Christmas tattoos. So it was huge. It was everywhere. They had merch all over the place. So from that point forward, it was just a part of like the cultural lexicon for me. I had never sat down and watched it until last year.
Shut up.
Whoa.
What?
I mean, I'd seen pieces and chunks, but I never actually sat down. It has been on in the background, that for me is how it works the best. It's like one of those movies that you put on this time of year when you're doing other stuff and you just have it on, right?
Yeah.
But I had never actually sat down, watched it start to finish until last year for the first time.
And?
I enjoyed it, but I probably won't ever do that again outside of having to do. I mean, it's just not a movie because it's a musical, because just the format. I like having it on. Mm-hmm. I don't want to sit down and watch it actively. I just want it to be on this time of year. And I'll probably have it on multiple times this year and moving forward, just as like we're doing something, cooking or something. Let's put on a movie, that kind of thing.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's a great pumpkin carving movie or a great cookie baking movie.
Okay, I'm going to push back. When this first came, I did see it in theaters and I loved it. And I've loved it ever since. And there was a while, because I liked it too much to the point that I was kind of like, am I just, am I a victim to the, everybody says it's so fucking good that you just start to think it's so fucking good,
Yeah.
It was last night. I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm actually going to sit down and watch it. Pay really close attention, and not just for the first time in probably a long time, have it on while we're pumpkin carving or while there's The Nightmare Before Christmas is such a fucking brilliant movie to me. I every single shot, every single fucking everything that the whole team did, which it took them like 3.5 years to make this fucking thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everybody that gets done with making this sort of thing is like, I will never do this again. This is the dumbest, biggest nightmare ever. But I'm not a big, like, I'm okay with musicals, but I definitely don't choose them over other things. I just think everything about this movie is so goddamn good. I think it's so good. It's so good.
And it's so good, David. Here's the thing. I didn't really think about it as a musical until studying for this. And then I read a description of it that it was like the musical, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I guess it kind of is. Like the music moves the plot along. So it is technically
totally does.
Goes into that genre. But for me, it was just like, it's like a Disney film, which I wouldn't think of a Disney film as being a musical.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point.
It is a marvel of production.
Yes.
Just if you sit and not watch it for the story and the plot, but just watch everything happening on the screen. It is a absolute
There's
spectacle.
so much all at once in every frame.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I get it. It is. And I agree with you. It is good. I just like time is as I'm old, guys. I'm the oldest of all of you. Time is
of the essence.
It is special to me. Yes. So for me to sit down and watch something and pay attention to it, I have other shit I need to be doing, I like having it on, and I both can be true. It can be all of the good things that we're saying. I also hate musicals.
Evil's take on Nightmare Before Christmas. Ain't nobody got time for that.
I will say this, like, I know some of us, or some of you, not me, some of you have kids, and like my nieces have really, I have 2 nieces now, has really shifted my perspective on how I look at some movies in general, because I can't wait to show them, you know? And this is one of those movies, when they get a little older, might scare a 4-year-old, but when they get a little older, like I can't wait to show her this, you know? And so I think that that's something I really love about it, because it's got just the right balance of spooky, but fun and safe and enjoyable. And you've got the Christmas part of it, so there's like some entryway there, and also just an incredible entry to Frankenstein and sort of these classic horror ideas that we see in so many other things. So I'm very excited from that perspective, because I think this is a great film for kids. And the music really helps with that, because it takes some of the scariness out of it, even though there are some like pretty, like staggeringly scary images that I could easily get embedded in a kid's head, right? But the music helps soften that, I think.
Well, and it's done in such a silly way too, Rach. Like, I was watching it with my kid, who is not a scary movie fan, but like having, you know, Jack's introduction into Christmas, he doesn't understand it. So he's doing what he knows. So he's integrating these really scary things into this happy time. And it's just like, you know, as a kid, you're watching it and you're going, we don't put spiders in presents. Like, that's silly. And so it's a good way to introduce kids to horror, because it's like a fun, silly way of doing it, rather than like a really scary, even though it is, like you said, the imagery can be a little like off-putting to kids.
But there is something about Tim Burton's vision. He's always had that kind of kiddish quality to his, like, he loves the scary, but you look at like Beetlejuice and it's dark as shit, but it's quirky and it's cute and it's
absurd.
Absurd is a really good. He's not trying to scare the shit out of people. He's almost trying to show people the romanticism of horror and stuff like that. That it doesn't have to be like this terrible thing. It's actually kind of it can be cute and it can be fun and stuff like that. Which I guess he grew up in, where did he grow up? He grew up in Cali, right? Southern California or something like that. He got the idea for this that would screw him up is in California, because there's no seasons. He just, all of a sudden there'd be like Halloween shit and Christmas shit in stores at the same time, and just kind of blend in together.
And that's how the passage of time was. What was in the stores instead of like the seasons.
Rachel Reeves, are you a Danny Elfman fan?
I mean, I'm a fan of his music recently, obviously. Maybe not as much a fan of Danny Elfman, the person.
Better question would be, are you a fan of his art?
Love him. Okay. Love everything he's ever done. No, just kidding. No, but like I love Oingo Boingo, and I love
Cheers to that.
What he does for films. He has the same kind of absurd vision and the way he looks at the world that Tim Burton does. It's one of those perfect marriages of composer and musician and director, because they just see the world in such like a quirky, weird way. And you hear that in his music, in his solo stuff, in his film scores. And so I love him for this. I love many of his film scores. They always work really well with what they're in, but they also always feel very singular to him. Like you can hear something and be like, oh, that's Danny Elfman. You don't even have to know it's him.
Totally.
It's just got his style, and it's very bold and just authentic to him, which is interesting.
His voice is so perfect too in this as Jack Skellington. So I love that Elfman, one of the qualities that I love that works so well in this movie is the music so effortlessly does go from creepy to bright. He doesn't really change the themes all that much, but he finds a way to make it, okay, now we're suspenseful and creepy, and then all of a sudden it's super, super bright and Christmassy. It's kind of effortless the way that he does it.
Well, it's like he has this way of melding with like each of the characters. Like each of the characters are very, very different. You have Jack Skellington, who's like super unhappy in his job, and like Sally, who's like
such a funny way to explain it.
It's true. It's true. He doesn't want to be the pumpkin king.
Yeah.
I mean, he does the same thing all the time.
That's great.
Burnt out is good, yes. And like Oogie Boogie, who's like the villain, and you have all these different kind of personalities, but then you have Danny Elfman's like interpretation of these personalities. So he's writing all these songs for all these different characters. So you have this melding of this character, but him. So it's still like this like bright Danny Elfman, like quirky, bouncy, whatever, but it's interpreted through all these different characters.
Evil, I have a question for you. What is the message of this movie? Is it stay in your lane? That threw me off a little bit last night when I was watching it. It's like, is the moral of the story like don't fucking try to do other things? Just kind of stick to your thing.
I'll flip that around, and I think the opposite side of that coin is to appreciate where you are and what you do.
Embrace your strengths.
Yeah, that's very glasses half full.
Yes.
Be grateful
for
what's around.
I like Zen Buddhism a lot. One of my favorite like Zen sayings is before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. I think that is kind of the root of the message here.
It's so sad.
Do the work, Jack.
He's trying his best.
He is. No, he's a good guy. Also, Oogie Boogie. I love Oogie Boogie. It's
great.
He's awesome. But he's like kind of one of the lamest villains as far as he's very unsuccessful as a villain. He's really bad at his job, I guess. This is a movie about a guy who's really sick of his job and a movie about a guy that's really bad at his job.
He just failed his way to the top, I guess.
Yeah, he kind of did. Like, what was it about Oogie Boogie that made him... He's got the henchmen that are clearly better at this than he is.
He's got the henchmen. He's got a good look. He's got a good song.
He does have a good look. Yeah.
He's got good branding.
He's got really good branding.
If he was successful, would it be too much of a horror film for kids? Would he be too scary if he was like a really big, bad, evil thing versus kind of like, fumbling, bumbling, scary, but also, you kind of like him?
Yeah.
I agree. He's beatable.
Yeah.
Yes. Ken Page voiced Oogie Boogie, and even like the Oogie Boogie song and stuff. It's freaking awesome. I think that they did a really good job with it. We already talked about how long it freaking took them to do it. I just think this movie is so good. I just have to keep shouting it from the rooftops. And I think Danny Elfman probably went from one of my favorites to maybe not so much just because of things, but I feel like maybe that's...
Yeah.
Rachel, we've struggled a lot with this over the last couple of years as a music podcast, that basically we've now realized that every single person that's ever been in music is a fucking terrible person.
Yeah.
Oh, people are terrible. Film's the same. Like, people are awful.
Yeah.
People are horrific. So.
We're waiting for the P. Diddy pages to where they just say every single person in entertainment is basically... We're just ignoring it, hoping it goes away. It's the true American way. It's how you do it.
Yep.
Anybody have anything crazy they want to add to it? There's nothing really new we can bring to it. Tim Burton started it as a poem when he was, younger, doing all his Frankenweenie. They wrote the songs before they wrote the script, which that's pretty cool. They had all the songs.
Well, I mean, as a musical, it drives
moves the plot along.
Drives the plot forward so much. It's just it's hard to separate it from the movie itself. It's just so intertwined and integral to it.
You all know it. You all love it. I think it's amazing. Rachel Reeves and Evil think it sucks. And Rachel...
No, it's one of those, look, 5 stars. No, 5 stars, no notes. Just
5 stars, no notes.
like maybe not my go-to, but I appreciate it and, highly admire the skill and everything. I think it's perfect, but just not my go-to.
There's stuff that I watch once and I'm like, that was really good. I never want to watch it again.
That's fair.
Like Schindler's List,
I don't think we should compare Schindler's List to Nightmare
I
Before
absolutely
Christmas.
think we should.
David, James.
Tim Burton and Steven Spielberg, they are on equal ground to me.
Well, that's fine.
Hey,
movies
the
themselves,
fucking scene during Jack's Lament where he's walking down the hill and the hill's moving out and there's the yellow...
That's amazing.
That's one of the most famous scenes in fucking cinematography history. Like, it's huge. It's massive. It's gorgeous. And a lot of that is because of the music. I used to, when I was young, I just wanted to be Jack Skellington.
My closing thought is I lament that films like this, the chance of films like this getting made ever again is so slim because of how much it takes to, and I'm not meaning just the stop motion animation, just a film so painstakingly made as this sort of singular artistic vision with the music and
Something that's artsy.
Yeah.
Unless they turn Jack into a fucking Marvel hero.
Stop with that. Don't.
It gets watered down eventually.
Everybody go watch it. Go. I mean, I won't.
good.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing. Let's go to our second movie of the night. This will be a fun one to talk about before we get into the more intense one. Evil, take us away on our second movie.
The movie is Deathgasm. New Zealand film distributed by Dark Sky Film, part of MPI Media Group. I believe it debuted, at least in the States, at South by Southwest in March of 2015, was released in October, which makes sense, of 2015, because I would call it a heavy metal horror comedy, which is right in my wheelhouse in terms of pretty much everything. I love it. Written and directed by Jason Lee Howden. You would know him from Guns Akimbo if you are smart and like fun movies. He was a visual effects guy, worked on stuff like Marvel films, Hobbit, Planet of the Apes, and so forth. Being resident metalhead here, it is one of the few films that is really true to heavy metal culture. It's like it was lovingly made by people who either did an enormous amount of research to be authentic, or just people who are metalheads and made a film that is really true to kind of like heavy metal culture. And I appreciate the hell out of that.
I felt at times like they were poking fun at, I mean, the great thing about metal comedy is it pokes fun at itself a lot, but it did, like, there were certain things that remind me. We talked a lot about the fucking Norwegian metal murders this year.
Yeah.
And this kind of seemed like it was making fun of that stuff.
100%. But the difference is they're making fun of it from the inside rather than from the outside looking in. So the perspective is authentic. And 1,000,000%. I mean, when they're filming the music video, that's
incredible.
It's so I mean, it's so good. If you know the music, you're laughing even harder because you know the exact video that they're mocking. So it's from the inside out. So they're making fun of things from a place of love.
Rachel Reeves, you're a bit of a metalhead, right?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I like some of it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've seen this maybe a little bit after it came out. Definitely didn't catch it at South by Southwest or anything like that, but saw it not long after that, I think. And like, look, this is not going to come as a surprise, but like, I love it because I'm always a sucker for, wonderful vinyl representation in any film.
Yeah.
And this one has that and more. I'm also obsessed with some of the more occult ideas of music and metal and the devil and how certain aspects of music get tied to that. Like I could just eat that shit up. So I love that it's got that aspect to it as well. Also, it's just so funny. And
it's funny.
It's so funny. And I love that there's moments, like you said, that they poke fun at themselves. Like when he's eating the ice cream, it's just like, what's the most unmetal thing you could be doing right now?
It's so great.
And he's just there in a full makeup.
Yes, exactly.
In the park.
In the park,
eating
strawberry ice cream cone. Like just the most unmetal thing.
So
and
good.
just having that contrast is incredible.
Yes.
But I love that because metal looks so tough and so evil, and you see that, but like at the end of the day, he still just wants to like hook up with this pretty girl, right? So it's just, I love that part of it because that's so true. Now, you talked about like some of the Norwegian murders and stuff, so clearly not all metal is as wholesome.
No.
But a lot of these kids that you see that are and a lot of people that are into it, same thing in horror, a lot of horror directors and people that are in horror are like the sweetest, nicest people ever. This is just an outlet for them. And because of that, they're much more calm, healthy, happy people.
Well, and thanks to that scene, I got my favorite meme of all time, which is the girl and the guy eating ice cream, and it's what Ghost looks like and what Ghost sounds like. The band. That's my favorite meme ever.
Oh, that's so good.
Rachel Polio, had you seen Deathgasm?
No, and I'm mad at Jimmy about that. I feel like over the last 4 years, you could have said something. But this was such a cute movie. I totally watched it on my own because it wasn't scary. and I did not need supervision. But it was just like this beautiful like love letter to like the metal community about like being in this rebellion, but like finding your tribe of people, because he goes to this house, live with his uncle, and it's like they're all like, fuck you, we hate you. And then he goes to the record store and then he finds this person like looking at the records that he loves, and then they join together, and it's just a really lovely story about self-actualization.
It's very much a teen movie. Like,
Yeah,
this
it
is
kinda
very
is.
like early 2000s. It's like 10 Things I Hate About You, but metal.
Yes.
It's-
That's why I liked it so much.
It's also incredibly gory. Like,
Yes.
like anyone who's listening who has not seen it, like,
Be
forewarning,
prepared.
it is incredibly gory. Like,
it is.
Yeah.
it is not PG film by any stretch.
No.
It doesn't follow like a standard like script format. Like, I love that this movie actually got made, and I think a film like this would not get made in Hollywood. It just wouldn't, because
No,
like
there's too many dicks getting sawed off.
there's like 45 minutes, a solid
my
45 minutes of world building before anything kicks in terms
Yeah.
of like action and plot. Like they have.
That's the best part of this movie. Yeah. It totally is.
Yes, it made the film work. You don't have to be a metalhead to like it.
Mm-hmm.
It builds the world for you in like a Hollywood sort of format where they're so risk averse with films. You know, they have to follow the, you know, save the cat formula. This would not get made.
I really like what Rachel said about vinyl being represented in records, because this was 2015. Like, this wasn't records weren't back yet. They weren't cool again yet. So the fact that they really, really relied heavily on it, it's really cool. It's cool that they did that.
Yeah.
This whole movie is hilariously self-aware, and I love it. I think it's awesome. What about the soundtrack, Evil? Do you love it? Do you like it? These guys have to be big Trivium fans, just because I saw the band name Trivium fucking 80 times in this movie.
I know. And, you know, like the soundtrack has like Emperor and Ishan. There's like some legit heavy hitters, but it's also very like celebratory metal as well. Like, you know, metal for the sake of metal, you know, death to false metal, the famous Manowar line, which is actually in the film. It for the most part, the soundtrack, it fits the movie. It's not like the greatest metal music, but if you like metal, you're going to like it.
I feel like it's both hard and easy to fuck up a soundtrack like this.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to be super, super careful about pissing off the metal community. But I don't feel like that would have been hard to do in 2015. I feel like you just have to do a little bit of research.
Oh, yeah.
And like you said, I don't know much about like Jason Howden and the guy that wrote and directed this. I'm assuming he's got to be a big metalhead. Does anybody know anything about him?
I don't, but I assume that he is. Like, why would you write something like this?
Yeah.
It feels too personal to not be.
I agree. I feel like I would get along with him well. Like, this has a very John Dies at the End. I don't know if you're familiar with those books. It's like one of my favorite horror genres, like book genres, is just weird, quirky horror comedy stuff. And this guy gets it. He, as the writer and director of the film, he gets it.
And I mean, also, the soundtrack is just made up of a lot of actual metal band songs. So
Yeah.
that is most of the soundtrack. So it's a good way to be authentic as well. We'll just use actual songs that we'll license. None of them are like Trivium, like that huge of a band. But
Yeah.
they had some money to license some local New Zealand metal bands.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have it looks like you have the record. I saw you sneaking.
I do,
a peek
yeah.
down there. Of course you do.
Which is a cool one. So
I hope you played it backwards a few times.
Yeah, have you listened to it backwards yet?
I have not. No. I love that about this too, because that is such a classic trope, right? And I love that it's so funny when they pull out the record and he's like, a Rick Astley record, because like
That was hilarious. That could not have been a better record to pull out.
happen. And I love that it was like their way of being like, not only did the characters get rickrolled in that moment, like we got rickrolled a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so then it's like, oh no, it's the sheet
Brilliant.
music. It's this, this black hymn, which I'm just obsessed with. So I love that it wasn't actually the record that they did, because you kind of thought that that's what would do it. But like, no, it's something even older that goes back and is more ancient that is going to summon this thing. So I thought that was really fun.
Here's a very, very serious question. Was Zach a piece of shit in this movie?
Yeah, but he's also a teenager. Like, I feel like that makes it more authentic, because it's like, yeah, you meet him, they all know he's a piece of shit. Like, come on. He's never presented himself any other way, so what do you expect?
So I guess just be thankful that he showed up in the end in the first place. Sorry, spoilers, everybody.
You know what? Characters can be flawed. That's good,
Yes. It makes it more interesting.
He was wearing a Death shirt at one point. I figure you have to like him. Yeah.
I know.
Look, I'll be honest. I couldn't find a bunch of like fun, quirky shit about the score or the soundtrack to this. It is what it is. It's Deathgasm is metal. And if you don't like metal, don't watch it.
Yes.
If you even close to like metal, watch it.
Going back to the park bench scene, I don't know if this was intended, but it's subtly genius. It's unintended genius if it's not, because as he's eating the ice cream cone, talking to the girl, his corpse paint is wearing off of his bottom lip as he's eating the ice cream. And that is like just so subtly brilliant to me, because that entire scene is awesome. And that little piece of it, I'm just like, it makes me, watching it again, it makes me love it every time I see it.
The other thing that I love about the corpse paint is when they get to the end and Zach goes to save him, and she's like, "So you put the makeup on first, huh?" They have this whole interaction of it's corpse paint. Yeah, okay, it looks really cute. Good job. We've talked a lot about this year, and metal is just, it's such a ridiculous genre. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's so hilarious, and I love guys like this that are very obviously super self-aware of how silly, of how, the kayfabe, as Evil calls it.
It's so good. I mean, the scene where they come out of the bedroom with the sex toys and it's like the action fight scene. It's so brilliant.
It's funny. I'm not a gore guy. I don't like gore, but it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
That it's not even, it's like, now this is kind of hilarious.
It also just shows too that not only does he know metal, he also is familiar with the genre. Like, I think this guy is also a horror fan, clearly, because like we've talked about Trick or Treat, and just kind of this sub genre of horror, of this heavy metal horror. And there's so many elements of that. Like we were talking about the Rickroll, like that's part of it. That's so like, me as a horror fan was just like, oh, I see what you're doing. That's very funny. But it falls right in and hits so many of those sort of genre tropes, like Trick or Treat or Black Roses and Rocktober and that kind of stuff. Like, it's hitting all of those things as well. So yeah, maybe you're a horror fan and not a metal fan, or a metal fan and not a horror fan. It's going to work for a lot of different people. And it's just so funny. Yeah. And there's a lot of good examples of this. Like, I also love The Devil's Candy, which I think is another kind of great heavy metal horror, but less humorous. It's nice to see this little genre thriving in this film so well. Like, it just is, it's so enjoyable.
Yeah.
I want more of these. I want more of the Tenacious D-ish sort of stuff.
There's a sequel in the works, and I'm super excited for it.
They've been saying that for like a decade, though. So, well, I guess maybe almost a decade.
I think it's actually going to happen.
Evil's gonna make it. So
yes.
I guess they have to. They did a Kickstarter, so they got to deliver at some point.
Right. Yeah.
Looking forward to Deathgasm 2. All right, we've still got a lot of time left, but that's because I feel like we have quite a bit to talk about with not one, but two movies to go. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. All right. We got to get this show on the road, because I've got a concert to go to. It's Sunday. It's Sunday. I'm way too old to go to concerts on Sunday. I'm gonna go see an old man show. It's Dinosaur Jr., Flaming Lips, and Weezer.
Oh, good.
Great
It'll
lineup.
be fun though. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Weezer's, it's Blue Album.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's not, they don't get to play their new shit. They have to play the good stuff.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hits. Play your hits, old man.
Yeah. I'm actually really excited to see Flaming Lips. I've never seen them, and I bet
They're
they
fun. Yeah.
put.
Lots of confetti and stuff going on.
Yeah.
Balloons. And
Let's start with 1990. Nope, there was no 90. 1977's Suspiria. Directed by Dario Argento. Screenplay, same, with Daria, help me out, Reeves. Is
Niccolodi.
it Nickelodeon? Nickelodeon, great. Produced by Claudio Argento, who is Dario's brother, correct? I'm pretty sure it's his brother.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Starring Jessica Harper, which was I think it was a great decision back then. This is kind of renownedly known as one of the more influential, greater scores in horror film history for good reason. We're about to talk about that. The music was done by Dario Argento with would you call it a band? Goblin?
yes.
Yeah, I guess it's a band, progressive band, right? I don't know. Rachel, you were probably out of all of us, and excuse me if I'm wrong, Evil and Polio, but you're probably the most used to the band Goblin. You probably know the most about Goblin.
You think she
Shakes
knows
her
more
head.
than I know?
She-
Fine.
So
Rachel, talk about it.
This has interested me the most is Goblin. What Goblin is. So what is Goblin? Are they just a progressive band?
Yeah, they were a prog band, and they started in the early 70s. Two of the founders of Goblin, Claudio Simonetti and Massimo Morante, formed Goblin, and they had a couple of band names before they got to Goblin. So I think sometimes that's what they were called, like Oliver, and then there was like some other band name, and then they settled on Goblin. And they did kind of have a little bit of a rotating cast of people that would come in and out of the band, but usually there was like some standard people that were always a part of Goblin. Even when one left, like Claudio Simonetti left for a while, and Maurizio Guarini came in because they were both keyboard players, and then they switched out, and then they switched back. So sometimes it's the same people, just depending on where they were at or what they were doing. But yeah, they were just a prog band. There was a lot of them in Italy around this time, so sometimes they would just kind of shift band members around with some of these other bands.
It's just so crazy to me because when you listen to this score, especially when you're watching the movie or something like that, and you hear that a band did the music for this, it doesn't click. It doesn't make sense.
Well, you have to think, like,
Because
during
it's-
this time, like, Tangerine Dream was doing a lot of film scores, and Vangelis, and, like, Blade Runner. Like, there was a lot of this kind of in the air in general. Deep Purple was really popular, and I think that's kind of what Argento wanted, was a band like that.
Yeah, I read that.
And so I think that was just something that was popular at the time. Rush. I think he just wanted something in that vibe. And somebody was like, well, yeah, you can't afford Deep Purple, but you can afford these guys.
Here's Goblin.
Yeah.
It worked.
This film is the first in a trilogy that Argento refers to as the Three Mothers. There was 1980's Inferno, and there was 2007's The Mother of Tears. I have seen none of these besides Suspiria. Has anybody else, and how good are they?
Rachel?
I've seen it, yeah. Inferno also,
Evil has.
I would say it goes in the order.
Ah,
Suspiria is the best. Inferno, Mother of Tears.
Evil, same question. It sounds like you've seen at least one of them.
So that's why I have a album by the Sword behind me. Their third album has a track called Tres Brujas, The Three Witches. And so it's a little bit of it's a stretch, but it's a tie-in to
It is
Good
a
job.
tie-in.
the Three Mothers. Yeah.
Suspiria was based very loosely around essays by Thomas de Quincey from 1845. One of them was called Suspiria de Profundis, something of that nature. Rachel Polio, our English major, Evil,
Yeah.
anyway. Did anybody read any of it?
Hard no.
It's interesting. The dude was on a shit ton of drugs. And that was the point, I think, of
Surprise.
the essays were literally, it was a guy basically saying, I'm going to write essays while I'm on different drugs. Here's what you get. And I think Argento was like, oh, that's awesome. Naturally, we should make a horror film out of that, which is true. I think.
Yes.
It's witches. It's about witches.
Yes.
The original screenplay was supposed to be very, very young 10-year-olds. That was the original screenplay, but I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Rachel Polio, had you seen Suspiria?
Yeah.
What did you think about the 77 film?
It was very Dario Argento. It was so heavy on the visual for me, which I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. Apparently he made it very bright for a reason. He wanted like the vibrant colors to be like dreamlike, which is interesting because dreams are in black and white, but it doesn't matter. It's just, anyway. But to be like, and it felt like a fucking fever dream, the whole movie. Movies that came out in this period, and especially these movies by Dario, are so different than anything that we see these days. So I think that I personally judge them on movies that I've seen from the 90s and after, and don't understand that there's this whole like different genre of like fever dream, drive you crazy, like what the fuck is going on at any point in this movie. Movies. The music for it was the perfect soundtrack for this kind of film because it just made it more chaotic.
Yeah.
It made it more uncomfortable. The entire time I'm watching it, I'm just like, I want either the pictures to stop or I want the music to stop. I just want to focus and I want to figure out what the fuck's going on. But I think these guys are witches.
Yeah. But the thing is, you can't figure out what's going on. That's
Yeah.
like you can try,
I really did.
but ultimately,
I promise.
Yeah. Ultimately, you just have to like let go and let God. And just like accept it for what it is,
Exactly.
because that's all
Yeah.
it is. Like, honestly, like, yes, there's story beats and everything, but you can't overanalyze some of this stuff sometimes because it's just like they just thought it was cool.
Even like the opening death scene, I guess is what you would call it. It's like there are cuts in it. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like it's like
Yes.
she's in this position and in this position. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
And then the girls were dressed the same, so I was like, did both of them die, or did she die in two different ways? Is she hung and is she on the ground covered in glass? What is happening?
Welcome to the world of Giallo.
That's actually...
I just surrendered at that point because I'm like, this is...
That was 2 minutes in.
Yeah.
It's so beautifully shot.
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
grown up with horror films like this and being scared by them, I gravitate to this type of horror. I like it. It's more scary to me than current day stuff.
Oh, by far.
The
mindfuck
the
is way
camera
scarier
angles,
than
the shots. It is just, and the soundtrack, man, it enhanced it so much. I was like hooked from the very beginning.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, the acting is the story. I don't know the editing, but it's beautiful and I'm scared. I'm hooked.
Yeah.
and so I just buckled in and enjoyed the whole thing.
The weird rasp whispery thing that they're doing the whole time. It's and I can't
It's
imagine
stuck in my
that-
head.
Yeah. And I can't imagine that was something that anybody had done back then. That had to be Rachel Reeves.
No.
I thought, actually
Shakes her head.
in 1967.
No. Like this does feel like a little bit more modern, but Italy has just an incredible history of film music. I mean, Ennio Morricone, like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
You
Right.
have like the icon from your country. But then at this time too, you have Fabio Frizzi doing stuff. You've got Bruno Nicolai, who also did a lot of genre and was very like infused a lot of jazzy kind of elements into his stuff.
okay.
And there's just so many great Italian composers doing weird and wild shit. Like you can go and watch a whole bunch of like Sergio Martino films, and they're doing crazy stuff. Pino Donaggio was doing crazy
You just
stuff.
made up that name.
And so like crazy in the
Yeah,
best
these
way.
aren't real
No,
names.
Pino Donaggio. That's not a real name.
Pino Donaggio did
Okay.
Carrie, Don't Look Now, some of like the bigger
okay.
films that they were just more experimental, I think, and just had a completely different approach to film music than say like in America. And the world it just wasn't as global, I think. So like the influences weren't like we're starting to cross over, and I think that's really what you do get with Goblin is some of like the American big prog acts kind of blending together and some of the British ones. It's a very Italian thing. Mainstream, I guess, versus sort of like a classical approach, like some of those other composers who were more influenced by the classical and jazz world. This is much more like, okay, we're going to like just rock this out a little bit and bring some of that energy into it.
This is me being judgmental as an American. So take this for what it is. This is for Rachel. But like, it feels like they didn't care if they made money or not. Like this kind of feels like an art piece more than, and I think making money is very much an American perspective of we make a film, we have to make at least our money back and then more. Where this is like, okay, we have this $200,000 budget. Let's just do as much as we can with it because I want this to be beautiful. I want it to sound good. I want it to look good.
I think it was just the time too. Like things weren't crossing over. Like, yeah, it could be a huge hit in Italy, but by the time this came over and kind of blew, it would be not until VHS, right? That other areas were actually able to even see this and for it to have, like, find any sort of audience. But especially at this time, this was only like the second film score I think that Goblin did. They did Deep Red with Argento before that. But they were just trying to make money. Like they were just dudes in a band and they were just like, sure, you want us? Like we did, Deep Red did really great selling records because it did appeal to prog audiences. You could listen to it and it could just be a cool prog album. It didn't necessarily sound specifically like a film score, right? And so, yeah, they came back and were just like, sure, because then they could also release the record. They had a record deal with Cinebox Records. So it was kind of
smart.
Yeah, maximizing on both things. But yeah, it's not like they were getting huge paydays or anything. It was just a way to make a living making music.
I'm not talking so much at the time. I mean, 77 was a long time ago, but watching it now, this movie runs the risk of being so silly if it wasn't for the soundtrack. Like if it wasn't for the score, a lot of this would be, you know, the super fake red blood. There's some silly cuts, the kind of baroqueness of this whole thing. And they were adding all these, there are some like metal qualities that are going into this. And I have rarely watched a movie where I felt like the score, the Jaws effect, where I felt like, oh, the score is the whole reason that I am being freaked the fuck out right now. This movie was very much that.
Well, you've seen that video of the Matilda musical with Rob Zombie in the background. Like you can put any music over something and make it silly or make it scarier. The music is really such an important part of the movie. Yeah, if you take the Goblin away, like they really worked so well together because it's weird music and weird visuals, but when you put them together, it makes like this terrifying combination.
Yeah.
It was also like so progressive too, because this is like when synthesizers and stuff were just like getting popular, which is such an iconic thing. And that's part of the reason why I think it's so influential. Carpenter, when he met Claudio Simonetti, was like, I love your music. I stole all of it from, like I stole it all.
Yeah.
It's like completely open about like how influential this was. They just had a little bit different access to some of this stuff. Some of it was being made. It was still crazy expensive was the other thing. Like you have to, like some of these synthesizers, like I interviewed Fabio Frizzi a couple of years ago and he was talking about how like it was like the cost of a house. And so like if you knew somebody who had some of these synthesizers, I have to come over and use this thing, and so they were using this System 55 Moog on this, and they were using Hammond B3s.
They were learning how to use it too. Like they didn't even know how to use it.
Yeah, and so I think that was really popular, and just prog in general was kind of messing around with this, and so to bring it into a film score, Wendy Carlos was obviously doing this as well. Goblin was on the cusp of that, integrating that into films and into horror and into giallos and sort of that stuff. So that's like when people were hearing that, this is a completely different approach to film scoring than a lot of classic composers were doing. So it just kind of burst open the possibilities in such a bisexual colored lighting way. It was just incredible.
Well, I guess he played it on set too, a bunch, to get the actors into the vibe while they were doing the scenes and stuff like that, which is freaking rad. I love that. Can somebody help me with what the fuck who was the murderer at the beginning though? There are parts of this I don't get. I didn't understand. Who was fucking killing the girl?
Like the window? Like,
yeah. Who murdered?
Rachel, I was like, I don't remember. Udo Kier, or was it the dog? I don't
The dog did it.
to go back and
This is one of those movies where the music also does such a good job of, there's such a misdirection there of you can't tell if the place is haunted, if there's danger, or if the girl's just a fucking lunatic, if the girl lost her mind. If you've never seen it before, you don't really know which way it's going. You don't know if it's the girl's just losing her mind, or if it's just a bunch of witches here that are bad shit. And I love that. I love it so much.
Even like the scene where she's like exploring the hallways and the blade comes through the door to like unlock it, and she like
Oh my God.
runs. Basically, she meets her demise because of running away from the actual horror.
Yeah.
I don't know if they meant that to be brilliant, but it's like it makes it extra creepy.
It's awesome
Yeah.
is what it is. We can keep going. We can blend these two together. The reason that I say these two is because Suspiria was, well, I don't even know. We'll get to this. I guess for now I'll say remade in 2018 by Luca, and I'm sorry again, Guadagnino.
Yeah.
Guadagnino. That's Spanish.
That was good.
Well,
for the Nino.
I don't think it is, but
Yeah, it's not.
Luke is not a Spanish
It's
name.
not. This one stars Dakota Johnson,
Whoop, whoop.
which that really threw me off. I gotta say though, we'll get to it, but I was actually pretty impressed. Completely different movie, completely different, and the director has said this wasn't a remake. This was just kind of maybe a reimagining from the same stories. Rachel Reeves, did you watch this in 2018? What are your thoughts on the newer Suspiria?
oh, I was hyped for this.
Oh,
Like everything.
yeah?
I was following the new, like this was a film I was following like from the beginning and its inception. The more I was seeing, the more hyped I was, which is kind of rare. 'Cause sometimes you hear somebody's redoing something and you're like, oh God, what? No.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? And it was a little nerve wracking at first, but the more they were going on with it, and then after I saw it, I was like, beautiful. This is how remakes should happen. Make it your own.
Totally different. Yeah.
And that's what I loved about this. It felt so singular to him. And if, people have seen some of his other movies, it feels like incredibly in line with his kind of just weird approach to things. If anybody saw Challengers this year and Bones and all and Call Me By Your Name, like he's just got such an interesting vision for a lot of this stuff. So I was very excited to see him attached to it. Of course, we're going to talk about Tom York, but like hearing that news got me very exciting as well, because it's not competing with Argento's in any way. It's
Completely
like,
different.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it my way, and that's so cool.
I feel like that had to be a conscious decision, because where Goblin is so, it shakes you and it makes you uncomfortable, but in a more, I don't know, I don't want to say violent. It wants to grab you and shake you, where Tom York is a subtle mind fuck. Tom York is like, I want to get into my fucking feelings and be, subversive and surreal with things. Rachel Polio, what were your thoughts on the newer Suspiria?
Being who I am as a person, I just like that it was a lot more explained. I didn't have to think as much about
More
it.
traditional storytelling for sure.
Yeah.
It's more traditional, and the symbolism was so much more obvious. Like
I
he
am
had
now a
this
witch.
like very
Yeah.
subdued color palette, and subdued color palette, and then you have the bright red when they're all being witches at the dancing. The music that had the same kind of like making me uncomfortable vibe, but it wasn't this like acoustic assault that I was getting in my ears from the 1977 version. It was a lot more subtle, but still like scary and creepy sort of version.
There is a joke in there somewhere about how much Rachel and Evil hate this type of music, though, that I could see it as being some form of assault on your ears.
Yes. I did love how in the 1977 film, personally, I felt like a lot of the scenes dragged on a little bit. Like you didn't need to be the camera focused on this one thing for so long and watch this girl's face be surprised for 20 seconds. It could have been over.
It's like the Holy Grail scene where the guy's running and they keep going back to him and he's just running. There was a bit of that
still
in
going.
the original Suspiria. Yeah.
In the 2018 version, it was a much longer film and it did have scenes like that, but for some reason they felt more filled. It wasn't you were focusing on this girl's eyes for this one point. It made sense that things were as filled out as long as they were, because they were filled out.
Two contrasting feels for a score too, in that I couldn't not pay attention to the score in the 77 version. And in the new version, like with the exception of like the two songs that it's clearly Tom York being Tom York, where he's singing and it's in equally good way, I didn't even notice the score. I didn't even notice it was there during the movie, which I feel like is also a very important way to go.
I would say 90 to 95% of it was amazing and had me like just glued to it, being basically a full hour longer than the original. It's like, this is a 2.5. This is a long movie.
Yeah.
I was into it, but a couple of things I'm just like,
Go on.
one, The 2 times Tom York is actually singing, it completely took me out of it.
Sure.
And especially, let's just call it the ritual scene.
Yeah.
Because that was shot in such a different way, it felt like, I'm like, oh, now this is like the CW version of the movie. It took me out of it so badly that I'm like,
his voice
it
is
almost
very, like, it's him immediately.
Yeah.
yes. Just the way that whole scene was shot is so different with like the red background, and it's like shaky, and like it was like so jarring juxtaposed to the rest of the film, which is like nearly perfect.
Yeah.
The first one, the original, is so campy. I'm like, well,
Yes.
intentional or not,
Yeah.
this is the tie to the original for me now, because I'm thinking it's now there. Here's the campy part, and here's the bright red, and it's probably not intentional, but it tied this one to the original film even more. I really wish I had a version where the original score was playing during that ritual scene, because it would be so fucking amazing.
I did have I don't want to say I had an issue, but when they did the like shaky, blurry scene where everybody's dying and their heads are blowing up and stuff, I did feel a little bit of like, it's almost like they're trying so hard not to be campy that it's like what they've done is they've kind of made it. But I
feel the same way.
Yeah.
It brought it back to me with the following scenes. It sucked me back in. So it didn't like ruin it for me at all. It's just like, that was a little bit of a hiccup.
I liked
that she Men in Blacked him at the end. I like that she's like, she might as well pull back a little, hey, look right here, you know?
Yeah.
I don't usually like her. I liked the lead in this. I think it's maybe because she seems like she's a little dead inside, or I don't know. There's like a
disconnect, like a detachedness, but it actually makes sense here. Whereas in 50 Shades of Grey, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you here?
It was a slow burn, like realizing that, oh, she's not like the innocent bystander in this story, like the lead in the original. And there was the moment that got me is when she's like catching her urine in like a sample jar. I'm like, this clearly isn't her first rodeo with witchcraft. Like, what is going on here? Like, and I'm trying to figure out like what's her angle, where she's coming from. I was like, man, I really like this movie. I really dug it.
Well, it's just a bunch of horny chicks, Evil. That's basically what it No. That's my biggest takeaway for the score from the newer one, though, is that I loved the song so much when I first watched it that I bought the score, and I've listened to it and I love it just because I fucking love Radiohead. I love Tom York. I've never really not liked anything he's done. It's fucking fantastic. I don't know if it's a good. Rachel Reeves, does this score stand out to you a lot? Because it doesn't to me, but not in a bad way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, is it going to go down in history as one of like the best horror scores ever? I don't know, probably not. But I think it works. It's a great partner for this film and what Guadagnino was doing with this film. I also like how Rachel was saying the original felt like a fever dream. This also feels like a dream, but just a different kind of dream, right?
Yeah, like a
heroin. It feels very dreamy and atmospheric, but just in a different way, like where you can't tell what's real and what's not. It's just not as intense and in your face and upfront as the other one, but this is just kind of more like, I don't know, it feels like you're walking more through like a fog and less than like just some super saturated overlit street like the other one. And so in that way, I really like it. Having somebody come from the music world is also very similar to the original. So it's kind of playing with the same ideas, but just presenting it in just two completely different ways.
For me, Rach, I agree. Like, it's a different kind of dream. And I think that personally, the dreams that are closer to what could actually happen, like things that seem a little bit more like they make sense, are scarier because you don't know what's going to happen next. So in that way, I mean, this film for me, the newer one, was scarier.
No, a lot of the
because
scenes in it, there's just the ones where she's starting to dance, like, you know, clearly the way that she's dancing is you're seeing that something is overcoming her and stuff. There's nothing super weird, like what she's doing with her shoulders is weird as shit, but it's nothing abnormally human, but it's creepy as hell, which that's really cool.
The girl, when she did the audition dance, so all of the dancing, by the way, was all of the girls. There were no body doubles. All of those, that was all Dakota. The girl that was getting broken in the other studio was a contortionist.
Oh,
None of
that's
that was
cool.
CG. That was just her contorting her body
That's
and
crazy.
having, you know, whatever body makeup on.
That's crazy.
great
I don't do
scene.
well with hooks. This movie had a lot of hooks in it. That's fucking gross. I don't do well with those.
Big fan of the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise then. Huh?
No,
Yeah.
no, I don't want it. And the hooks in this are so sharp and giant, and they're very hooky hooks. I don't love the hooky hooks. Evil, which one's better, new or old?
They're so different.
Yeah,
Which child do you love more?
yeah.
In terms of just like what is visually pleasing to me, it's the first one. As an artist, the colors,
Yeah.
the shots. There's the
reds
scene
and
where like
greens
the light bulb comes down into the camera
Yeah.
view. Oh, that was brilliant. I love that. For story, production, execution of a movie story, the second one by far
Yeah.
is superior. So I think the soundtrack for the first is iconic. That is in my head. I can't get it out. Tom York was serviceable. He did fine for the score. I
Calm down.
did not like the tracks where he's actually singing, where it's like songs. I don't want that in there. Get the other Radiohead. Have Johnny Greenwood. He did great with There Will Be Blood. What if he scored this thing? That's a great what if question. Like that could be amazing.
It's a good what if, but there's stuff on the like the Choir of One song that York does where it's all just different vocal lines. That's so fucking amazing as a score to do. It's like 14 minutes of just these super long, drawn out. I think it's really, really, really cool.
That is. But him singing, it took me out of the movie so much that I'm like, those are two strikes. Those two.
Polio, what's better, the old or the new?
The new. I'm just going to say it. I like the new one better. I'd watch it again. The old one I probably won't watch again. However, that being said, the old one is just a beautiful piece of art. Like it really, really is. The visual, the technicolor, the music, the uncomfortable feeling that you're feeling the entire fucking movie that did not let up.
Yeah.
That was a real piece of work. And the new one is great too. I mean, we had said it's 2 hours and change. Like it's a long ass movie, especially compared to the previous one. But it didn't feel like it. It felt like it all made sense. Like every part in there needed to be in there. And again, the music in there, having it outside of those 2 moments of Tom York, have it be accompanying the movie as opposed to like overwhelming the movie. If it was taken away, you would notice it. But having it be there, they both have their own thing. But personally, I would say the new one is what I would recommend to people.
I'm going old just because that's just my feel. I love the weird visuals. It's a little bit overdone. But I love that. It's new way. It's like 70s newer figuring it out synth. It's very Clockwork Orangey to me. And I
love Clockwork Orange.
I mean, yeah, because I'm a fucking human with a heart and 2 ears. Rachel Reeves.
Is that what being a fan of Clockwork
Yeah,
Orange?
that's all it takes to like Clockwork Orange.
I don't think that's it.
Those are the
And
qualifiers.
zero moral compass.
There it
Rachel
is.
Reeves.
There we go.
Old or new? Which one do you prefer?
I get different things out of each one, right? Like I think the new one is a richer text. I think it's exploring themes in a much more substantive, you know what I mean, way. So there you
Substantial?
go. It's
No, I'm
exploring
saying
those
that.
ideas.
I like the word.
In a much more meaningful way and having a more interesting conversation that is interesting to engage with. However, the first one is just, you just kind of let it wash over you. And it's an experience rather than like an intellectual exercise sometimes, which I think the newer one is.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I like them both for different things. If I had to pick a soundtrack, it's Goblin. Every day, all day. Like that's bangers start to
Yeah,
finish
can't-
for sure. I like the York for sure.
Yeah.
I do. But if I had to choose, like, which one do you want to listen to at this party? Oh, it's going to be Suspiria, the first one for sure.
Guys, it's time to play our favorite game. I almost said murder, fuck, kill, but that's not. Marry, fuck, kill. Murder, fuck, kill would be interesting. Marry, fuck, kill. Rachel Polio. You get to pick which Suspiria, but you got to marry one, you got to kill one, and you have to have intercourse with one. Which one
Wait,
is
but
it
there's
going to be?
4 films.
Eliminate.
Pick which
Eliminate one.
Suspiria
Okay.
you want.
I would.
One of them's
I would
just-
do the same thing to both of them. So here's where we go.
There you
Mary.
go.
Let's get to just be right in order. Mary, Nightmare Before Christmas. Fuck Deathgasm. Kill Suspiria. Both of them dead. Sorry.
Brutal.
It makes sense.
No.
That's just me as a person, Rach. I'm sorry.
Evil, same question.
You marry Nightmare Before Christmas. That's obvious.
It's all that money, man. Get that,
Yeah.
man.
I think it's one of the Suspirias. I don't know which one. We'll go with the second one. We'll fuck the second one. And we're going to kill Deathgasm because there's going to be multiple Deathgasms.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm same for me. I'm marrying Nightmare. I really do. This is pinned down the fact that I just love. This is such a brilliant movie. I love it so much. I am same thing. Fuck Suspiria. There is a lot of sensuality in the movie, so just don't try to hide it. And then yeah, I'm gonna kill Deathgasm. It's fun, but it's it's up against some pretty heavy hitters in this one, in Nightmare and Suspiria. Rachel Reeves.
Yeah, listen, I'm marrying the original Suspiria. Like, do it. Make me a witch. I'm in. I'll be part of your coven. I'm down for a sisterhood situation of some sort. I'm a fucking Deathgasm. It's called Deathgasm. Gasm. Like, come on.
Yeah,
Right.
It's true. Somebody had to do it. Yeah.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm sorry, I'm killing Nightmare. Like, it's just
You kids in your
sad.
musicals.
That's sad
too
for me.
mainstream. Yeah, I don't sing to me. Like, I'm good.
Don't sing to me.
Sing to
Love
me.
that.
We're not done yet. I have one more question. And who knows? This might be a whole other episode. Rachel Reeves, is Nightmare Before Christmas a Christmas movie or Halloween movie?
No, it's a Halloween movie. Come on.
That's where I am with it. I agree. Rachel Polio?
I agree. I think that enough of the Halloween washes over the Christmas feel. And it starts out and ends Halloween, so it's Halloween. It's Halloween.
Evil?
It's a
Go left.
It's a Halloween movie with a Christmas spirit.
I'll take
That's
it.
fair.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are our movies. We cheated and did 4. Deal with it. Rachel Reeves, go listen to Halloweenies. They're talking about aliens. I mean, you can't talk enough about aliens. Go listen to the pod. Rachel, thank you very much for teaching us about Italian movie makers.
You're welcome. Anytime.
We really do love having you. This really is like, we get so excited for this episode.
It's
for like
so much fun.
2 months in. We're like, do we get to start picking yet and stuff like that.
Oh,
we love
thanks.
this
Yeah, this is
episode.
a blast.
Rachel Polio, thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Just excited as ever. Evil,
All right.
same with you.
I don't know what to say.
I was gonna say, I feel like the pressure's on because we keep like picking like cooler and cooler groups of movies to do. So like,
Yeah.
oh, what are we gonna do next year?
There's
I
still
know,
good stuff
but
out there. There's
That
still
doesn't
good stuff
mean
out
I
there.
don't feel pressure.
I understand it. Everybody come back next week. Polio and I talk about a specific genre that I think Rachel Reeves is a big fan of. We ask the question, what is punk? It's a here's where you're wrong. I don't know if you like this band or not, but we do talk quite a bit about The Clash, which I think you might be
yeah.
kind of a fan of.
This is going to be like an SLC punk conversation. Huh?
A little bit. Yeah. Everybody, we love you. Thank you. Go have a good Halloween. Get some awesome candy. Check it first because there might be razor blades in it. We love you. Good night and good luck. Don't you remember that? If your fucking parents would be like, you have to check all your candy.
Yeah.